So we have nothing about hardcore science today. We are all about content moderation. And I propose to split the section into 15-minute slots. And every slot will be somewhat dedicated to each question. I will read it out loud, so don't worry, you don't have to watch back. I will try to remember them. And I will ask every panelist to give maybe their brief experience about their content moderation journey. Usually you don't build the perfect content moderation system from scratch. It's a very painful process involving many steps and many iterations. And to make it a success, well, you've seen the case of AliExpress. They spent roughly maybe 18 months, right?
6 months.
6 months. Well, you had 5 people. Okay.
Right.
if you add more people, it will be longer. Okay, so I kindly ask everyone to maybe say something about their process. So what they had at the beginning, maybe 1 year or maybe 2 years ago and right now. So let's start with maybe AliExpress case and then go forward. Thank you.
Okay. I'm not sure I will keep in these limits. Speaking about the company, because AliExpress says as a joint venture company, just arose not more than 3 years ago. So we didn't have that much journey as a company itself. But speaking about our team experience, I should mention that part of our team had before some experience in C2C classifieds, which definitely helped a lot because C2C classifieds is the place to learn everything about moderation and automation. We started with just complaining actually. Right. We complained to our Chinese colleagues, showing them examples, and finally, not getting full understanding on every point that we come up with. Like sometimes they just didn't see what the problem is, and they were completely sincere with us. That's where we started somehow understanding that actually the problem is not that direct as we have thought about it. And that's where the whole cultural difference idea grew from. Now we believe that we have a rather mature process. We definitely know what to do better here, and we definitely know how to optimize it. But overall, I believe that though a year ago, it was on the top of my product priorities for AliExpress. Like one of the biggest problems AliExpress had was that we have a lot of this bad content displayed for our buyers. Today, I believe this problem is not in top. And that's a huge win for me and for the team.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And Olga, your experience, please.
Yeah, thank you. My experience is like on my previous job, I was working at Yandex, which is one of the biggest Russian and European search engine companies. And among other things, for several years, I've been responsible for the moderation department. Moderation is very important for the search engine company because the major source of revenue for the search is actually ads, like quite similar to your case. And ads displayed either on the search engine results or on some content services. That's why the moderation of ads and moderation of user-generated content was a very important part of the task. And by that time, when I joined that team, there were the challenges, first of all, that actually the moderation was designed pretty much in the way like Gal, you described, in a way that it was the combination of automation, just direct regular rules, AI, and some human moderation. But the problem was related to the human moderation part because it was actually consisted of some pretty large number of in-house experts. And there were problems like, first of all, with, to be honest, costs of the whole organization, because if it's a labor-heavy occupation, there are lots of people, they need to sit in the offices. It was the pre-COVID era. So people needed to sit in the offices. You need to find spare spaces for them, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it was kind of not cost effective. Second problem was that it was not scalable. When the business was growing, new services were emerging, but every time there was a bottleneck in moderation. Like, we want to launch a new service with user-generated content, but the moderation department is not ready because we don't have moderators free for that. That was a bottleneck. And the third challenge was, to be honest, that kind of nobody could understand what's going on there, because the whole system was relying on the expertise of those people who have been moderating the content for the 10 previous years. So they had a large part of their expertise kept in their heads, but very few part of expertise somehow formalized. So you could not approach them with any formal metrics. You could not understand the quality of their moderation, the formal SLAs, et cetera, et cetera. So what we did that time, we actually introduced the approach of the crowdsourcing into the moderation process, which finally resulted into the pipeline, into the pipelines quite similar to what Lena has been showing in her presentation, when there are complex pipelines of efforts of thousands of independent performers, which include some cross-verification and et cetera, and which makes that the process resistant to mistakes of single performers. So what we did, we introduced Toloka into the process, and also kept it like a pyramid. When there is automation, then there is the crowdsourcing, and then on top there is some very limited amount of, we still kept some in-house annotators who really keep the expertise, which cannot be automated in any other way. And that all was going on maybe 4 or 5 years ago already. And since that time, I think that we see the facts that prove that we were on the right track, although the whole reformation was quite painful. But still, after that, within Toloka, we already see many clients who are using the same philosophy, like, for example, AliExpress. And we also see that we managed to restructure the whole process of moderation within Yandex, which resulted in the fact that now it is a scalable and manageable process. And we are also happy to see that now this approach is undertaken by more and more clients on Toloka platform.
To manage many moderators, I think, right? And if any of you have questions or comments, we do have enough time, so just raise your hands. I will come to you, and we will just raise your questions and comment to our panel. And Gal, so could you please tell us your moderation journey? You have a huge platform and you have a huge user base. Probably you should have a huge moderation team, don't you?
Yeah, we do. So when I came a year and a half ago, the general idea was emphasized on manual review. We had lots of manual reviewers, over 100. And the automation and the AI didn't do the heavy lifting. So in the past year, we really tried to scale it as much as we can, because automation is consistent, the SLA is perfect, it's almost instant, and it can also improve the approval rate. So what we did, we identified trusted advertisers, and they get automatically approved. So this is also a way to reduce some of the manual work. And I think one of the biggest takeaways from this year is communication, because as content moderation, we need to enforce the policy. We should know what is right and what is wrong. And in the past year, the policy became much more clearer, and it was communicated in a better way, because a year ago, policy talked to the content review team, the manual review, it talked to the automation and to the AI, and we each review differently. So the AI did decision A, the manual review did decision B, and it really upset me, because the AI was measured by a human. So when the human saw what the AI did, say, oh, this is bad, it is not good. It affected our metrics in a negative way. So right now we have a very good communication and cooperation between the policy, the human review, and then AI and automation. So yeah.
And I have a question here. So there are so many moving parts actually from the metrics, your KPIs that you use for acceptance of your changes, and the content moderation team or content review team, you said CRT, right? You also have automation, you have AI, you have many things. And how much time did you spend to build all of these things?
How much time is spent into building those?
Well, usually you have people who implement all these things, and how much time did you spend for this?
And so it's since the beginning of Taboola. We keep iterating on the process, we keep improving our methods, and I think specialization, like to divide the different categories into specific reviewers, so that the same reviewer will not review both home and garden category and also insurance. So they have a specialization in specific types of advertisements. So it's also helped to increase the consistency. And
you classified, so prior to sending to human, you somehow classify those advertisements to keep specialization.
Yeah, the AI give the prediction, and according to the prediction, we give it to the reviewer. Now the prediction is not always correct, but we do our best.
So you have specialized reviewers for maybe medicine, for maybe toys, and so on. So and how do you onboard them?
How do you
onboard them?
Onboard them?
Someone say, I want to be a moderator at Taboola, and then they join they apply somewhere, and how do you decide what they should do? Maybe retail stuff or not retail stuff? What's the onboarding process here?
So for the onboarding, actually, one of the people that managed the human review team is here. And basically what we do is we have like a 2-month program, presentations, tutorials. We then give them items that are not being sent to production to measure their accuracy. And only after we are happy with the result that we are getting, we're sending them real items. So they're not always aware if the item is indeed real or not.
Mm-hmm. And so you have kind of control items. Yeah, you have the items with pre-annotated responses, and you have to like refresh them every time. How do you do that?
Yeah, some of the annotations are not getting sent to production. Some of them are being sent to 2 different reviewers just because we want to test the consistency.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And again, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to ask us. Okay, so Moran, nobody has to ask you what Booking.com is. That's a good part. The bad part is you have so many hotels there. That's not an advertisement. How do you handle them?
Yeah, so maybe our use case is actually different from what the guys described. So my team is a platform team that is building general models that are consumed by Booking in-house departments. One of the departments is the moderation department. So we are building like multi-label image classification and multi-label text classification, and then the moderation department are consuming these predictions. So, for example, I will describe some use cases in Booking, but there are guests that are participating or hosting in the hotels. So they upload a review when they after they post Booking, and they can also upload images from their visiting. So actually, these images is the user-generated content, and they need to be moderated because we found some images with nudity, with drugs, and this kind of labels. So our multi-label classifier, one of the classification labels can be these labels, and then we send them to the moderation team. So they have these labels for every image in real time that get into Booking, and they know like if this is an actual nudity image or drug image or other class labels that we have. For textual, actually, so for every review, we need to moderate each review that getting into Booking. So we know to say if the review is containing like inappropriate words or violence aspect in the review. So these are the kind of use cases that they are using our platform to get the predictions for the reviews and the images. Other kind of use cases, for example, if a partner upload an image with a logo or with call this hotel, and then they're actually trying to get customers calling directly to them instead of using Booking. So we need to moderate these kind of images as well. So we have actually a label for logo, certificate, sign in the image, and we identify this as well. So there, and each one of the uses that I just described is a different department in Booking. So each department is calling our service, our platform, to enrich the content with these predictions, with these labels. And then they are doing their own automation for that. What I can share is that for hard approved images, like that they get very, very low threshold of not being nudity and of not being this kind of labels that we have. So they're automatically approved, but the ones that have very low threshold, even very low threshold, that we have any doubt that it's belonging to this kind of label. So it's going to be moderated by human. So if we're talking about journey, so one thing that I can share is that now we are doing fully automation process for Facebook advertisement, for example. So for Facebook advertisement, we want to choose an image. Like, I don't know if you're familiar, in Instagram or Facebook, you get some booking advertisements like book this hotel, and then you see an image. So we use the main image that the partner is uploading, but we need to choose the images, the appropriate image to show. So if we have bathroom images, or again, images with text, logo, or images, I don't know, with sink, toilet, all of this. So we need to, or people, even people, we don't want to show people in advertisement. So we are doing automatically process to choose just images for this advertisement that are not with this kind of labels.
No, that was very, very interesting, and I have a few follow-up questions. And the first one is, so if you want to use, so by images you mean the hotel images uploaded for the hotels, right?
So there are two types of images: PGC, like partner-generated content, and UGC, user-generated.
UGC, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
And for example, for advertisements on Facebook and other social media, you usually want something not just non-restricted or non-offensive, but you also want something aesthetically pleasing. And I can understand how to automate the offensive image moderation, but how do you select the most aesthetically pleasing images of your premises?
So for that, we have another model. We have quality model that give a score between 1 to 10 for every image by the technical quality of the image.
We have it also.
Yes. Okay. It's not a competition.
Just wanted to ask, do you use user behavior features in this quality model, like clicking?
Nice question. So actually, we have a technical quality model that's just about the technical quality of the image, like the brightness of the image, the color of the image. And we have CTR-based model that is more attractiveness of the image, like if there are like how many clicks we get
generated
for the image. But we have a bias there because people tend to press on images of swimming pools and this kind of beach images. So we are now dealing with how to deal with this kind of bias.
Yeah, definitely. Why do you have separate models about tech quality and customer features? Why didn't you just like build one, give me the best image for Facebook and that's it? And incorporate all these features into the model. What drives you to take several
So
models?
we actually use them for different ways. It's not related to moderation, but okay. But we actually use them for different use cases. It's like depending, like if we have like email marketing, so we will use the attractiveness one because we want the person to get into the hotel.
Okay, gotcha.
But if it's more for, I don't know, other type of, just we want to show images that are with this label, but we know it's not just the attractiveness of the CTR. We want to see like images of a bedroom that we know that the bedroom is very high quality, like technical quality. So we need to combine like the classifier of the labels with the technical quality.
I see. Thank you so much. I promise my last question. That the question that always triggered me as a user, like you do have very many photos from users. Why are you sure that these photos do refer to the same hotel that they describe? I mean, you do have very many photos, user-generated content photos.
User-generated, okay.
User-generated. That's important. Yeah. How are you sure that these photos from this specific user do refer to the same hotel that he writes review about? How do you do it?
I don't know. It's not my responsibility, but I'm not sure.
That's cool.
I can probably bring the discussion a little bit back to the human aspect. And actually, surprisingly, I have two parts to kind of ideas. Answering about Yelena last question about how to make sure that some users generated photo is taken in the hotel.
Yeah.
I don't know about the booking case, but I know another example of what is done on Toloka for example, collecting the data for the maps.
Mm-hmm.
We have several clients who are collecting. Yeah, like the interesting part about the crowdsourcing, taking a step aside, is that you can not only assign tasks to be performed online for the people, but you can also ask people to perform some minor tasks offline. And one of the popular tasks on Toloka is related to maps producers. Like, for example, please go to the certain location and verify that some organization or business really exists there. Like, go to this place, verify that this is a business center. Go to this place, verify that this is a cafe, etc., etc. Sometimes when we talk about the business center, of course, there are also signals from the online because those organizations are registered in business directories, etc. But sometimes if we talk about the flower shop or something else, the guy who just restores the boots or something like that, they just simply do not exist in online. So the only way to obtain the information about such organizations is to literally ask people go offline and verify that they are there. And there, from the point of view of the crowdsourcing, we have this problem. Like, okay, some people bring us some photos, like saying, this is this organization. How do we verify that this is about that organization? Yeah, so we verify, so we match the the geodata. The geodata about the coordinates of the expected place and the photo where it has been taken. Yeah. And if they are far away, it's quite easy to track like automatically.
So I can go to the hotels and make sure the images are from the hotel, okay?
One by one.
Yeah. Toloka is for that. Yeah, please register. And also having the previous question about the aesthetics of the images from what we see, because if I'm talking about from sitting in a hat of like Toloka, we as a platform have many different clients making many different use cases. What we see there is the approach how to measure really aesthetics using the human judgments to use it further as a ground truth for the models. And what do people do is actually use the side-by-side comparison, because quite often it's very hard if you show the picture, say, is it beautiful on the scale of 1 to 10? It's quite hard to measure, but if you show two images saying which one is better, it's very easy. Every person can compare two images and say which one is better. And if you collect large amounts of such judgments with huge overlap, asking hundreds of people about the same pair and asking about many, many pairs, as a result, you get the ranked list of all the objects, actually ranked by the popularity of the votes they get. And thus you can use this as the ground truth for aesthetics from the human point of view.
Yeah, so there is a question. So please go ahead.
Perhaps to follow on what you said is why don't we have like sentiment analysis for pictures? We have it for texts. I mean, what you said could be translated. I would even imagine UI wise like a slider that you can perhaps But if you go for binary, I mean, if we know that we can judge a review based on the tokens. Why can't we do it, just start and do sentiment analysis for images, and then perhaps later we can see, okay, we can identify beaches are more, I mean, like with tokens, that like beaches are more popular than forests or
Sorry, thank you. I could answer that again from the point of view. Well, if we speak about crowdsourcing, meaning that when I speak about crowdsourcing, I mean some scalable and repeatable usage of human efforts. So this is, we need to develop some method that can be repeatable. And when we ask one person or another, or today or 10 days later, it will work in a predictable manner. That's why like we need something that can be more or less formally controlled. When we speak about side-by-side comparisons, it is something that can be controlled. You show the same pair of objects to hundreds of people. About every person who is making those decisions, you calculate lots of statistics. You calculate his or her consistency with the others. You calculate it matching with some meta information about those objects, etc., etc., etc. You can even inject some, we call them honeypots, so some verification checking tasks where we definitely know which one is better and which one is worse. And we also track the percentage of the cases when a person votes for the incorrect task. And that's why this is something that is manageable and scalable. We can, once we have created such a pipeline, it can work on and on and on. Like Lena showed today, their pipeline is running every day. And actually, all the people who participate there, like Lena probably like doesn't know and or doesn't care who is there on that side.
I don't want to know.
Yeah, because everybody is just, every participant is described by some vector of parameters. Like we know that he qualified for the express tasks, he has a certain quality in this and this and this. Unfortunately, if we speak about the slider task, it's much harder to formalize it. If you ask two people to rank on a slider, their judgments will be very much disconnected. Probably Dima can add here because he's been investigating and researching the tasks about consistency of the human judges and methods of aggregation there. Dima, maybe you can add here about the slider or some other.
Well, in a few words, if you use expert annotators, if you want to rely on humans who have some time to learn about your instructions and your requirements, you can follow the way the search engines do it. So they have 100 pages of instructions, and people who are admitted to these annotations are experts because they read and understood all those instructions. And they can differentiate between one scale of 1 to 100. But in crowdsourcing, if you apply non-expert annotators, you have to rely on pairwise comparisons. You should ask a simple question like, what is more preferable, this forest picture or this seaside picture, for example, in your question? And you just leave the annotators with one simple question that they can quickly answer in their own head without taking too much effort while reading the instruction. And they, by selecting A or B, they can give you the proper annotation. Unfortunately, it somewhat makes it a bit difficult to control the quality because you have to do some synthetic data to control that the answers are not random, and you have to spend some effort for aggregating this stuff, but it's more or less solved problem. So after a few modifications, it should work for you. And it brings us to the second part of our questions. What do you like most about content moderation with machine learning? And how do you deal with these disadvantages? Because we've seen through the slides that people rely a lot on machine learning. You can save a lot of human effort by asking the model who trained on the labels to predict whether it's okay or not okay to show this advertisement to the general audience. However, this approach for automation should have its advantages and disadvantages. So I think we should turn in the reverse way. So from Booking.com to AliExpress. How do you live with all those advantages and disadvantages of your automated content moderation pipelines?
Yeah, so I think, like I described before, that it's kind of different from our use case because we are building general machine learning models that are used from all booking departments. So I'm not actually part of this automation, but we send the predictions to the moderation teams, and they're building their own automation pipeline that are using this prediction along with other predictions. So this is just a part of the moderation automation.
But what if the model gets it wrong? How do you do?
If the model gets what?
Gets it wrong, makes a mistake.
That's what I mentioned before. Like we give a score for different labels. We have like 20 labels that moderation asks for them. And for each one of them, they're taking like very low threshold to automatically approved the image. And for higher threshold, they are reviewed like manually. So that's what we do. And we actually did, the model that we built is based on take data, annotated data that we tag, and we know using the test set what is the best threshold to use. Like we get recall of 1 to catch this image, and we are not like taking less than that. We need recall 1. We are not, even if the precision is very low.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Thank you. Okay, Gal. So what do you think about the advantages of automated moderation and disadvantages of it? How do you do it?
So I think that the key is monitoring. Basically starting with, we have a rollout plan, starting with a very low or high threshold, and we send it to a manual review, like starting with 50% of the decisions are being reviewed. Once we can see that the precision or recall, whatever we care about, is higher than what we want, we can reduce the amount of monitoring and change the threshold. So it's not like we launch with the final threshold that we want. The higher the confidence gets, then we tweak the threshold according to the performance. So monitoring is the way to go, in my experience.
Yeah, and monitoring, and indeed the people who will react to these monitoring alerts and so on. So they have to react quickly to adjust the system so they don't make so much damage if it goes wrong, right?
Yeah, so for some risky categories, they get an email. If by mistake we identify that the image might be unsafe, we send an image alert. But for the others, they're like sweeping queues, and they go item by item according to the risk score, and double check, and if needed, they're gonna reject the item.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Sorry, what? Yeah, I usually turn the airplane mode on when I go to sleep, so no emails for moderation.
Why you don't work in moderation?
I don't work when I sleep. Okay, so Olga, what do you think? What are the advantages and disadvantages?
Oh, to be honest, I think it's impossible to add anything after Gal's answer and after your talk today, because it was very comprehensive in terms of the way moderation works. In general, speaking about what I don't like about moderation, and you mentioned it as well, is that nobody noticed if everything is all right. Nobody ever will thank you like, wow, what a cool moderation you have. Nobody just notices anything, and that's the best you can get. But it's very easy out of millions of objects to find the one mistake, and definitely your CEO will find it and call you at 2 a.m. That's what I don't like about the domain of moderation, to be honest.
Thank you, Elena.
Yeah, right. I actually have 2 different answers. One is realistic but funny. Second is realistic, but a bit more serious. I'll start with a funny one. Actually, Gal, when you presented your talk, you also mentioned the metrics you use, like recall, precision, and they spoke about cultural differences. So my question to you and to the audience is, do you guys think all people in the world who do ML use these metrics as KPIs for the ML teams? The actual answer is definitely no. In some no-named company, some no-named Chinese ML team does not use these metrics at all. The only metrics we have, was initially bad cases metrics. And yes, it was realized exactly in the way you already have described. Someone found a bad case, and that's put on your KPI metrics. And you are judged not by the quality of your model, or your recall or your precision. You know what? Just by the amount of bad cases you've solved. By the way, if no one found any bad cases, guess what the level of your bad cases resolvement is? Right, guys, you are here. That's how it was, actually, and that's true. What we do now with bad ML cases, we're actually using our real users. As you saw, we also have this feedback. And now we have this, championship between our CEOs and our users. Who is first to find the bad case? So the better we work, the more users we have, the less the probability for our CEO to be the first to find something. That's what we do here.
How involved is your CEO in finding these issues?
We have two.
Twice as effort. Okay. So we have at least one more topic. Yes, so we have a question, please.
Yeah, so my name is Vladimir. I'm working at Millennium. Previously worked at Toloka as well. So my question is as following. So this is the question mainly to Yelena and to, forgot your name, the Tableau guy. Yeah, so you're using human answers, human labeling as an input for your machine learning. And you are labeling advertisements. And so some of your advertisements might be legal today and illegal tomorrow. For example, if you are labeling something like medicine, you might be able to sell them today, and the law might pass and prohibit this tomorrow. So now you have a huge amount of data that label those advertisements that says that it's legal, and the next day it becomes illegal, and you have like a big portion of your data that is mislabeled. So how do you deal with this?
Thank you for the question. The world of content moderation is very dynamic, right? One day something is okay, something is not okay, or maybe, for example, a celebrity died yesterday, and there's an article about him tomorrow. So you have to be dynamic. And as for the data set, which is trained on the wrong policy, we are dealing with such problems. And part of the track that we're having with communication between policy, automation, and the human review is to communicate the policy when it changes. And then we can do like a model versioning according to the policy. And we have to retrain the model. It is very hard to track, and the policy keeps changing. It's one of the biggest challenges in AI and automation in content moderation, the changing policy. Yeah.
Kind of data drift happens. So we had at least one more question here. Yeah, sorry.
Thanks. My name is Alex. First of all, thanks for all this interesting information. So my question is, we spoke about the unintentional errors of ML algorithms. What about the intentional errors when cyber criminals will want to bypass those algorithms? And how are you planning to deal with that, or how are you already dealing with that?
I'm probably didn't fully get your question, but cyber criminals don't have access to our inner services and inner resources. So even if they want to, they just don't get access to my ML model. What they can do, on the other hand, they can hire many annotators, make some, secret pact outside it, and create many very false judgments about my very items. But actually, the effort that it would cost is much more than they would earn through Toloka about these judgments. So I still don't see what's their profit.
All right. So, and we are very close to the next section of our panel discussion. We have been talking about models, about moderations, about labels, about other stuff that is, kind of computational. But all those labels, all those stuffs are evaluated by real humans who submit labels. And my question is, how does a content moderator's typical day look like? So let's talk about humans. And who wants to start? We have people with internal teams of moderations. We have the baseline between them, and we have people who use crowdsourcing. Who wants to start? Olga, you can start if you have the microphone.
I can start because I have kind of experienced both models. Sorry for that. What did speaking about my personal experience dealing with the moderation tasks when we started that project of like reformatting the whole organization of moderation, the situation was the following. We had like roughly speaking 100 of in-house experts, and their day was like they wake up in the morning, go to the beautiful office in the center of the city, pour a cup of coffee, chat with the friends in a coffee break place. Then they start moderating and actually do this kind of routine job for 8 hours a day. Then they go back home, and that repeats for 10 years on. What we had, and truly those people needed to have very high quality of training prior to starting working, because, for example, one single ad should have been labeled by 75 different tags. And the people were really proud by their ability to label every task in 75 different tags. But I see several problems in this approach. Well, like, the whole system resulted in the fact that it, at some moment, the system like reached the limits of scalability, of manageability, and cost effectiveness of this approach. So it worked until some moment perfectly, but then we needed to restructure the whole system. I see two kind of problems there. Speaking about like 75 tags and the amount of months you need to train a person and onboard them in order to be able to carefully label that. First of all, is like I said, and like Yugal mentioned, you really need to invest lots of time to train and onboard a person in order to learn all these rules. Secondly, it's a problem that if a person makes one mistake out of 75 tags, does it mean that he or she is good or bad? From the point of view of the person, like 1 out of 75 is not a bigger problem. But from the point of view of the business logic, this one incorrectly put tag may cause like quite a big problems for the business. And it's very hard to track. That's why in Toloco, we always try to decompose the task into set of smaller and simpler tasks, which are easier to control actually and easier to remember. Some of them do not require such long onboarding and training. For example, this particular case with 75 tags was decomposed into 10 different tasks, which were binary or almost binary.
Okay, thank you. And let's now listen to the experience of Taboola and Booking, who have...
Sorry, I've been talking too long. You should have started.
We are here to talk, so please do. Yeah. So could you please share your experience in, what is the average typical day of your content moderation team members?
Sure. So we have the 2 months onboarding, followed by a routine of shift managers that assign campaigns to the reviewers. Each reviewer usually reviews like 250 campaigns. Each one has in average like 7 advertisements. Go campaign by campaign, should make 4 different labeling decisions, not 75. And the tricky part is that even if they reject a specific advertisement, they reject it due to the correct rejection reason. Okay, don't just reject. Why did you reject? Because first of all, it's the consistency for our AI models. But also when you communicate to the customers, we want to give them the right rejection reason so that they will be able to correct. So communication is also a very important aspect in content review because there's an end user that's going to get this rejection. So we work hard on training them on selecting the right rejection reasons. So this is one part, the proactive moderation before it gets approved. But after it gets approved, we have this process called sweeping. So sweeping is about going over a queue of already approved advertisement and double checking that we didn't do a mistake. Is there a labeling mistake or an approval mistake? So that's another side.
5% or for some?
5%, only 5%, according to the risk score.
Okay.
Cool, very cool. That's a very cool insight, actually. And Warren, could you please share your experience? How do you do this at Booking?
Yeah, so actually the moderation teams are based in Amsterdam, so I hope they at least have some canal, a beautiful canal view. So yeah, the work is there are 2 different moderation teams for images and reviews, and the work is very exhausting and Sisyphic. I can say, like, for images, if the image is rejected, we know the exact label that was identifying the image. So we are using, like, we retrain the model with this kind of annotations because we get them for rejected images that we know that there was a specific label in this image. That's it.
Okay, so but generally, so you said you have the moderator team in Amsterdam, right? Yeah. So they are like employees of Booking who are, so you have many thousands of hotels and many thousands of users, maybe millions of users, and you have a single team in a single city that does all these things. That's
we have two teams, one different from images and one different for reviews. And actually, it's just for new, like, joint images. Like, if there is new image that is coming to Booking, we need to moderate it. If it's automated moderate, it's okay. But if not, so they need to go over it. But we already did the heavy lifting of all existing images and reviews. So it's just for new coming ones. And for that, yeah, they are handling it.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you. And the last, so Elena, do you have maybe some things about the difference between other companies and AliExpress that you applied for scheduling the moderation efforts?
The only thing I'm thinking about, sorry for pleonasm, is that, like, we all are used that Chinese companies are really that big and have very big teams. And here I am sitting here without any content moderation team and doing where I turned wrong turn. I mean, everyone has it and we don't. I'm not sure we would never create such a team inside AliExpress. We actually do have a team. It's not content moderation. It's more about legal and seller connections, about special categories, as you can easily understand. Some types of items are required to be specifically certified or specifically checked, or need special docs to be presented before we are allowed to sell them. So probably we should think about this team as our kind of content moderation team, taking into account that our content here is not digital, but physical as well. Probably that's it.
Yeah, thank you very much. We are a bit out of time. Thank you very much.